challenge your kids to do things that scare them, because it's when we do the scary things that we feel the most alive.
And now,
Aye, aye.
I'm the captain now. Coming to you from the K2 Studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's sitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Kristine Show. Hey, what's happening, everybody? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here today, and I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 140 of the Kris and Kristine Show.
Wow, 140 Kris and Kristine Show official episodes.
I know, you threw me off on your intro, though, because you did it a little bit different.
Did I now?
I always listen for the same three words, and I'm like, I wait for, thank you so much for listening, and I am Kris. And you did something like, have a great day at eBay.
What are you talking about, baby doll? We are officially 140 episodes into this little funsy little evening project.
Now, did we miss a lot of different weeks? Because it would seem like if we did one episode a week, every week for 3 years, that we would be at 156 episodes, but we're 16 shy of that because we're over the 3-year mark. So was I slacking? Did we snooze and play repeats or something? Oh,
yes,
COVID.
and yes. We did a lot of that stuff. There was weeks.
Not a lot. There was only 16 weeks.
Well, there were some times where, we had to do replay episodes because we were gone, or COVID situations, or time. Yeah. Don't forget, we took a time off when we moved. Took a whole month and a half off.
Oh, I totally forgot. Totally forgot that. That was a lovely time of life.
Why is that?
Because I didn't have you cracking the whip on me get back to podcasting, woman. Get back in that podcasting seat and get on that microphone.
We got bills to pay.
I know. When we first started podcasting and I was like, I just don't feel like it. You'd be like, can you please have a good attitude? Can you please just sit down and do this? And I'm like, wow, that really makes me motivated.
Did it now? Look,
no.
3 years later?
3 years later.
Here we are.
Fighting the same battles. But no, I had no qualms about doing this episode this week because we have a lot to talk about.
We do. You go first, baby doll.
Well, it has been a very interesting week. It was first week back from having a 6-week break from events. And so we jumped into it yesterday with my trusty number one assistant sitting right across from me in the studio, wedding helper boy himself.
That's right.
Kris, the rockstar wedding co-planner.
I am. I'm officially. What's my title again?
Logistics manager.
I'm the logistics manager. Wasn't there another title you were going to give me today?
Wedding helper boy?
No, there's another one on top of that one.
I don't know, but King of Tetris? I don't know. But I said for my wedding logistics manager, I gave you your first big Christine Smith Designs project. I contracted with you. We negotiated on a rate. Actually, there was no negotiation. I just told you how much I'm going to pay you.
Yeah.
But I think I feel like it's a big milestone in the business. There was one milestone, which was getting my first 10 weddings. And then it was hitting the 6-figure mark with the business. And then it was building the studio and the cooler. And now we've expanded so much that today we had to get a storage unit for our inventory.
Yeah, so Kristine comes back to the house and she says, hey, I have a surprise for you. And I'm like, what is it? Well, close your eyes. And I'm like, well, what could it possibly be? Hold my hands out.
Well, first...
And she drops a box of keys in my hand. And I'm like, what is this for?
No, you have to back up. First, I took you into the garage.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
I took you into the garage, and before I gave you anything, I had you look at the pile of Christine Smith Designs inventory, and I said, how does this side of the garage make you feel? What did you say?
And I said, well, it's okay.
No, you didn't. You said, your first words were, I hate it.
Yeah, that's true. I do hate all of it. I do wish, I'm kind of we all have clutter in our lives, right? Everybody's got clutter. Everybody's got a little bit of it going on. I would love to be less cluttered. I think we all do. I don't want it to get to the side of that show Hoarders where it's you can't even find your feet in the place. I mean, it's not that bad at all.
No, I mean, it's business stuff, but still, it is taking up half of our 2-car garage.
And you got stuff like coming in too. Like not only stuff you have here already, but you got new projects you're working on, new inventory coming in. So you decided to get us you decided to get the business its very own storage unit, correct?
I know. And I was really excited. So I was picking up some stuff from FedEx and I was driving because the FedEx Print Center is on the side of town where there's a big brand new storage facility. And I was driving back and I was thinking about the garage and how much stuff I have in there. And honestly, I was looking at it the other day and I was like, man, there's so much stuff in here. And it's not, I was like, well, should I sell it off? And I'm like, but I need this stuff. And I don't have room for it in the studio because the studio is a design space and there's not storage in there. It's literally,
it's just an office.
Right. It's a design studio. It's like open space to be able to work and create. I can't get clutter in there. And then I can't obviously store it in the cooler. It'd be ruined. And then the rafters are attic space is all
filled with Christmas stuff and suitcases and things like that.
It's completely full. And so I was driving back and I was like, you know what? That storage place is right there. And I was literally right across under the freeway from it. So I just drove through the intersection and I pulled in and I walked up to the girl and I was like, I'd like to get a storage unit for my business. And she was like, well, if you're getting it for your business, there's a different process. And I was like, no,
wait a second. Different process for a business one versus a regular person?
I don't know. She was kind of confusing me. And then two people walked in right behind me. And I was like, well, this is going to take a little bit longer. Why don't you help them? And so I sat down. And then this gal said she paid her payment online. She was talking with the receptionist. And I was like, you know what? I should look them up online and see if they have any specials. Lo and behold, I'm so glad I did because it was, so they had two deals. If you go in person and you get a storage unit, you get the first month rent for free.
Gotcha.
But then you pay their published rate. If you book online, they have everything online to where you even get your gate code and everything. You can register for it all. And you just drive in. Like I could have been sitting at home and been like, I want a storage unit. Let me go online and I'll register for it. Put my credit card information in. And then it generates an email with a code and tells you what unit. And the price was, get this.
What's that?
$60 less a month.
No way.
Yeah, it was almost half off. Locked it in because it's the online, the web-based, because you're not dealing with their people. That's why they are able to keep a small staff. It's like they save on that.
Yeah, most of these storage unit places usually have a staff of like one or two.
Exactly. So the gal, she finished up and she's like, I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting. I was like, that's okay. I didn't know you had a web special. I'll just go through that. And then she, I did everything. She's like, but I'll give you a tour. So she took me to the storage unit and I got a 5x10. So it's not big, but it's a start for us, right?
Yeah, it's basically what it's going to be is we're going to house all the supplies for the wedding business that's going to be in these brand new tubs and totes I picked up today at Home Depot.
Well, that's the part of the story that we haven't gotten to yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I jumped ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you did. So I had you look at the pile and you said you hated it. And then I said, close your eyes and put your hands out together, right?
Yes.
And then what did I do?
You handed off these weird keys. And what are these things for?
And it was inside of like a key holder, like the little plastic thing. Mm-hmm. And you were looking at it. And then what were you thinking?
About these? I didn't, honestly, I thought, when you first handed them to me, I swear, I thought they were like little shelving clips. You put shelves together. I'm like, what are you gonna maybe build some shelves or something with this thing? I thought that's what they were. I'm like,
that's funny.
Yeah, they look like little tabs, like the bookshelves would have to keep the different shelves in place. I thought those were what they were, but they're bigger. I'm like, that seems kind of odd.
Yeah.
And then he told me they were keys to a storage unit. I was like, no way.
Yeah. So I gave you the keys, then I explained that it's a storage unit, and then once we sat down a little bit later, what is the special project that my logistics manager is taking on?
Well, me being the logistics manager for the company, VP as it is, really. So what I'm going to do is I had to go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of those big plastic storage lids. Storage containers with the lids that can stack on top of each other because these need to be filled with stuff, stackable, and be able to put these into the storage unit. So everything that we're not using for the wedding business at the time, she's got tons of those hurricane vases, candles. You got all kinds of knickknacks and stuff for the weddings.
The
bowls,
vases and stuff like that for all different kinds of weddings. And then the problem comes if they're in cardboard boxes, they're not stackable, and then they're breakable. They
kind of are until they fall apart.
Exactly, but then there's breakable stuff inside, so it's like, well, we've got to secure it. So, yeah.
So I bought 10 tubs plus bubble wrap plus we're going to create some kind of like filing system to where on the outside of these boxes, these totes, we're going to put like a label of what's inside it and then like somehow tape that to the outside from all corners, no matter where they are in the storage unit. We can see what's in each one. We're trying to get this down to a science. So when we go to the storage unit, we're not having to like dig out everything to find out one thing we need.
And then
so
we have
know what it is.
And then we have inventory so that I'm not going and buying additional things that we already have in stock. And then by the nature of doing this, we're going to have everything organized and sorted. So when it's time for an event, we can just go and get these pre-labeled tubs that have a correct count of everything inside. And we just pull it out and go to our event and, get everything prepped. And then when we're all done, after we clean the items up here at home, we can take them back there.
Oh, I can't wait. It sounds amazing.
I know.
So what part of this whole thing lets me to retire early from my main job?
You ask me that all the time. And that it's really starting to kind of grind me the wrong way, honey, because it makes me feel like I have to keep working harder and harder, and you're trying to find a way to get out on easy street.
It's not easy when I'm the logistics manager taking care of everything.
Well, let's see you step up on this big project and see how it goes, and then we'll have a performance evaluation, and we'll discuss, future projects that you might be contracted for. Right now, we're on a per project basis.
Oh, yeah?
You got to earn your stripes.
Okay.
And it's not easy because I am particular, but that's
yes, you are.
But that's what's made my business so freaking successful.
It is. You are amazing. And yesterday, I helped you out on a big event yesterday. We actually did a fake wedding. If you see anything of our social media like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you will see pictures from the big fake event we did.
Well, no, because if you say big fake event, that's like the big fake wedding. We didn't do that. What we did was...
it's not the big fake wedding.
We did a
staging.
event. We did an event staging.
It's fake. It's a fake wedding for a stage.
No, it was an event staging.
That's what I said.
A brand new wedding venue was doing an open house, but they needed to prepare it as if it was a wedding event for their marketing materials. They had a bride and groom that were there dressed up. They took photos of, I'm sorry, I'm still in your thunder. You explain it from your perspective.
All right. So what Kristine was hired to do was to stage the entire event as if a real bride and groom and a real wedding was actually happening, but there was no real, quote unquote, quotation marks, wedding actually happening. It's all for photography and for press and for marketing materials and things like that. Which you need to think about this kind of stuff. You always kind of wonder, like, how do they actually, when they get these photos done and these shots done for their promotional material, I guess they have to do like models and staging and the whole 9 yards. And so Kristine was hired to do the arch flowers, which looked spectacular, by the way.
Thank you.
And then he had to do all the table centerpieces, which looked amazing. And then we had another a planner that was there, and she was setting everything up too. So
she planned the whole thing and hired me for the event.
Oh, so you were the hired help for this event?
I was the hired florist. So the planner, Evelyn Francesca, Evelyn Sell of Evelyn Francesca Events was the main planner. And then she reached out and contracted with all of these different vendors on behalf of the owner of the property, which the owner was really an amazing person, wasn't she? She was, and she was very down to earth. And this property was amazingly large and very beautiful. Like, it was a horse equestrian estate, and it had horses, and they had... what else they have? Beautiful lawns and beautiful grass. Stables, and they had arenas. They had a whole arena training facility up on the hill. Barns and warehouses for stuff. It was basically like a big, I don't know. It was more than just a house. Right. It was like a business, a company, a Disneyland for horses. I don't know. Yeah. And it was so gorgeous. And then they have their main house, which is a big main house. But then they took this other area, what used to be like a barn, not a barn, but like a housing quarters for the ranch hands, where the on-site, because it's an equestrian facility, or it used to be a really high-functioning equestrian facility, they used to have all of the horse handlers that lived on site in the bunkhouse. And so no way. They took the bunkhouse and they transformed it. So they gutted it because they don't have as many people. They don't have people living on property like that anymore. And they gutted this little ranch hand's house into a beautiful 2-bedroom casita, which is used for where the bride and her bridesmaids all get ready. And it has this beautiful living room, a full kitchen, 1 or 2 bathrooms. And they'll even rent it out to the bride and groom the night before the wedding and the night after if they wanted to, let's say that the bride wanted to stay somewhere with all of her girls and have a sleepover, and then everybody gets up and does hair and makeup the next morning together and has this whole fun time. They could do that there, which I thought was really great.
That looks fantastic. That's one thing you want about, I guess, a good wedding venue place. You almost want a one-stop shop, do it all if you can in one place.
Yeah.
Which is a great way to do it. I think that's why a lot of these hotels are so popular with their wedding places. You got the rooms, you got the restaurants, you got the on-site coordination, the flat, blah, 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 all right in one spot.
Right.
But this owner is trying to transform their taking on a new adventure with a new business, trying to make it a full-on wedding destination.
Yeah, so it's called Peridot Equestrian Center, and now it's becoming called Rancho Peridot. So it's Peridot, Rancho Peridot, and it's up in San Marcos, California. It's in this beautiful area with hills around it, and like Kris said, they have horses in some of the stables. But here's the thing is typically you'd go to like a horse facility and you'd think that it would be like smelly or like hay. It's nothing like that. Lush green lawn, beautiful fountain. The mock-up of the ceremony that we did is in front of one of the stables, and you were walking around talking to all the horses, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I was naming them, like, hey, this one's Blackie, but his real name's something else.
Sully, right?
Yeah, and I was petting the horse. One horse, I think it was Sully. I was petting him one time. Next I go back to pet him again. He does this, like, turns his head, like, whoa, attitude you got with me, boy. Come on now. I'm trying to be nice here. And then the horses start talking to each other. They start, like, doing their or whatever. and then they start talking. So they're doing that real loud to each other. And one of the poor horses was older, and she was in this like horse treadmill, which is kind of weird. The way it works, it's like a merry-go-round for horses. I know it sounds weird too. But the horses are on this track that's in a circle. In the center of the thing, it's this big like gimbal machine with these big arms that kind of go stick out and kind of hang out in front and behind the horse. Almost like a gate attached to these arms that kind of go around the path of the horse. So the horse is walking, constantly walking, because the gate is right behind it, following behind it. Find the horse, and it's going around a circle. So you can fit like 4 horses in this gimbal machine, and they're all just being walked around. Think of it as like a walking machine for horses, really. It's getting exercise.
Okay, you've said that term a couple of times. What's a gimbal? I'm like literally here on my phone, and a gimbal is like a stabilizer for a video camera. What's a gimbal machine?
There you go, something like that.
Are you just coming up with words?
Well, it's like this thing that like I don't know how to describe it.
You're just coming up with the word for it.
It's basically like a floating carousel that floats around the horses.
You know what? A floating carousel is a really good description of it because it does. It has like 6 different branches or arms that come out. And so what happens is the horse gets connected to it. And so it keeps...
The horse wasn't connected to anything.
I thought it was.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. What it does is the horse sits in the middle between the front and the back. So as it moves, because they're all moving, right? Same direction. It hits the horse in the butt and it keeps it moving.
That's what it was. Okay.
But it never hit the horse in the butt. It got close to the horse's butt and it kept on moving because he slowed down, stopped, looked at me. Then he started limping. He's like, come on, I'm hurt here. Come on now. What am I supposed to do? I'm just a hired help. All right.
But the other thing that it does is it keeps them from going too fast, especially because it's rehabbing. And so that horse had a little bit of a limp, like you said.
I noticed it. It was like limping, I was like, you poor guy, poor little feller,
And what's so funny is one of the handlers, you were talking with her while I was doing the arch setup, and you asked her about the horse, and didn't you say, oh, that one horse that was in that round thing walking around, it had a limp, and she was super impressed that you were that perceptive to see that.
Well, that's the way I do. I'm perceptive for everything, really. I mean, most things. Most things,
yeah. Women's feelings, no. Limping horse, absolutely.
That is so true and accurate.
But I know it's really hot yesterday, and we worked really hard, but I had fun working with you. How did you feel about working with me?
Baby, I love doing this kind of stuff. Even though it really kicked my butt. I was up early. I came back home and I fell asleep on the couch, lights out, just sitting down because I was so exhausted. I think it was just like being up and working in the heat and just doing things that you're not used to doing.
Does it give you a different type of respect for me and what I do with my business?
No, but I've always respected you no matter what you do.
You said no, it doesn't give you a different level of respect.
Okay, it does.
I mean, you've helped me before and I've been like stepping you up into it. So we did that one wedding together where we were setting up the centerpieces, and now you did this one. This one still, I was moving a little bit slower than I typically do for setup because we were chit-chatting and all of that.
That's what I do best, baby. You know.
I know, but so it kicked your butt. We came home and you didn't even put the kids to bed. They just went upstairs.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know where they were at. I just fell asleep on the couch. I don't know what happened to the kids. Next thing I know, it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, it's time for bed.
No, it was 11:45. You fell asleep for 2 hours on the couch and I didn't wake you up. And you were fast asleep and you were snoring. And I was like, you know what? I was not going to bother you because you really did work hard and you were a great support. And one of the things that I love about bringing you, I am going to say this. The thing that I love bringing you to the events is that you'll unload all the boxes for me.
Yeah, someone's got to do it, right?
Boxes and buckets. It's really helpful because then I'm able to focus on other stuff. But then there were times, like Evelyn, the planner, she brought food back for you. So you got to like sit and rest for like 20 minutes. And then there was times when I was up and in the sun working on the flowers and I had you just like sit and rest and bring me buckets occasionally. And so I was really trying to preserve your energy so that you could rest a little bit. And I hope that you did okay.
Thank you. And remember one comment I made earlier in the day yesterday? I said, the greatest thing about yesterday is I got 2 different women to buy me food. I got you to buy me Starbucks lunch or whatever.
I got you breakfast.
And then Evelyn bought me lunch from Panda Express.
And then I bought you dinner.
And they bought me dinner too.
I took you to Outback while we were waiting for the event to be over.
There you go. Yeah. So it's all
the ladies. All the ladies for Kris.
That's the way it usually works, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
But, one of the things that I really appreciated about yesterday is that the pace is different. I know we did have to be quick to get stuff ready and I was running a little bit behind, but, it wasn't as stressful or as anxiety producing as some events can be. And, that is one of the things that whenever I build up to an event, sometimes I have a hard time managing my stress and anxiety. And so I get like very detail oriented.
Now, detail oriented, does that help you focus more on the anxiety, or is it just kind of like you kind of push the anxiety? You kind of like everything in the world around you just getting crazy. You're just like focusing on narrowing down to one thing.
It just helps me think through every different aspect of, we're similar and different. So you're like a worst case scenario kind of person and you focus on the worst case scenario. In my mind, I think of what could happen as the worst case scenario and then how to prevent it. And I backward map it and I organize like for events. Like I think of, okay, so if we were to get to an event and I was getting ready to like unload everything and I noticed that we're going to have to go up all of these stairs. Oh, is there a back entrance that we can get to that doesn't have stairs? And so I'll ask all of those questions and it gets me organized in advance. And so that's why like my brain is constantly running with like, okay, I have this fear of maybe I'm not going to be able to get it all done, or maybe it's going to look horrible, or maybe they're going to hate it. And I go through all of these different things. And what I realize is like, if I just push through it, then it's actually really fun. But sometimes staring down fear can be like very paralyzing.
It's funny you say that. Today's fantastic VIP guest we have on the Kris and Kristine Show went through something very similar to that. And he actually crossed over and crossed through his fears, is able to write a children's book all about that.
Absolutely. And we're going to be back with him right after this. Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Christine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic guest on the show. He is a children's book author. Welcome to the show, David McBee.
I love that sound effect. I think I'd like to get that one for my house. Just play it every morning.
Anytime you walk into a room.
What sound effect are you talking about? They're all right here, man.
Our live audience. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us today. Where in the world are you joining us from?
I'm in Kansas City.
Oh,
Kansas City.
Now the Kansas side or the Missouri side?
I technically live in Olathe, Kansas, which is on the Kansas side of the Kansas City Metro.
See, you know that I was a Midwest girl when I can ask that question because not everybody knows.
The only thing I know about Kansas is where's Dorothy at? Is she?
Oh no! Oh no!
That's about as far my Kansas goes.
So you live in Kansas City or Olathe. Is that where you've been from your entire life?
The Kansas City Metro. Yeah, I moved around it a little bit. I grew up on the Missouri side, but yeah, my whole life lived here. My family's here. I love it.
That's fantastic. And are you a big Kansas City barbecue lover?
Oh, yes. In fact, and people tease me about it. I have lover of barbecue in my LinkedIn profile.
Oh, wow.
What? So do you cook or are you more of like a consumer?
I'm very much a consumer. I do some of my own smoking, but it's just so prevalent around here. It's much easier to go buy it than
I would think
spend
so.
all day working on it.
Now, you prefer like gas, charcoal, or wood fire for barbecue?
Oh, wood, definitely wood.
Yeah, that's
All
what I
right.
thought.
It gives it that smoky feel to it.
I know. I used to like see people who have a gas barbecue. Like, what a loser.
Yeah. Now, I do need to ask you, since you are a lover of barbecue, what's the difference between like Kansas City barbecue and backyard grilling like we did on 4th of July?
Oh, well, I mean, technically it's all barbecue. That term is used pretty loosely for anything you cook over a flame or over outdoor heat, right? But a real barbecue is when you smoke the meat over an indirect flame so that the smoke flavor gets over the meat and cooks it super, super slow. So that's really the difference.
And it gets it nice and tender, right? It does
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like what people use those Traegers for? I see men like posting about, I got a Traeger for Father's Day and things like that. And I think those are like smokers. Does that quantify as
That is
barbecue?
definitely that's a good brand of barbecue smoker. Yes,
All
absolutely.
right.
Fantastic.
Well, Kris just barbecued for us over here on 4th of July. So would you say that you are a barbecue expert, Kris?
I don't know. I mean, I got one of those like 5-burner, propane tank, stainless steel or whatever.
So not wood, not charcoal.
No.
So you fall into that category that you were just saying about,
Hey,
what are you doing?
I can find a lighter and light it. Like that's about turn the gas on, recharge the propane tank. It's about as far as I go, I think.
Yeah.
With my grilling.
So do you barbecue on your own frequently?
I mean, not as much as I used to because, like I said, it's just too easy to go buy it.
Definitely, especially when you're in the area where you live. And so speaking of that, since you've been in that area for most of your life, do you have family, kiddos?
Yeah, so my mom's still alive. She's in her early 70s. My father and his wife are still alive. They live half hour from me. I've got a sister. She and I don't talk so much anymore, but I'm married, been married for 24 years, and I have a 22-year-old son, and my daughter's just about to turn 17.
Look at that. Now the 17-year-old, does she have her license yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Our 17-year-old just got his learner's permit yesterday. He decided to wait just a little bit longer, but he's so excited. So we're celebrating that in the household over this weekend.
And how do you feel about having a driver in the house?
I am very excited for him, and he worked so hard, studying so long to be able to pass that test. And, there's a different kind of pride. And I feel like, in California, we have different rules. So he's not allowed to drive at all until he has at least his first hour of behind the wheel driver's training with a company that you have to hire. So he still has to wait a few weeks to actually get behind the wheel. And so I feel better about that. But I don't know. I mean, he's going into his senior year and, next year he's going to be off to college and driver's license. It just happens so fast.
Yep. That's exactly where I'm at. But Zoe got her learner's permit and her first car at 15. So she's been driving for a while.
Now, was this first car a Jeep?
Good guess. No, I'm not big on buying my children's vehicles for them. I'll help supplement them, but she couldn't really afford a Jeep at 15. She has a Jeep now, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But her first car was a little Bug.
Oh, my son would love that.
The newer one or the old one from like the 60s?
It's the oldest new one. if that makes sense.
got it,
And
yeah.
it was old enough to be falling apart, kind of
Right.
a little bit beat up, but definitely not something from the 60s.
It wasn't the one you would take in like the Baja, like you get like lift on it and you go like running down the dunes with it, right?
Nothing like that. No.
My oldest sister, her first car was a Bug also, and I just remember that my dad restored it for her. It was like a heap of junk, and then my parents surprised her with it, but it was like one of those 60s kind of ones, and it was originally purple, and so my dad had to like strip it down, but when he repainted it white, it still had this like purpley tint to it.
Oh,
So it was like a light lavender.
Nice.
But yeah, kids growing up is always an interesting type of thing. I just worry like what's going to happen when he gets behind the wheel. Is he going to get anxious? Is he going to get scared? Is he going to get nervous? How did you navigate that?
I love the app Life 360. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, it's the greatest thing ever for parents in this time and age, right? So it basically tracks where her phone is at any given time. It's like the Marauder's map from Harry Potter. I can literally see anywhere she is at any time. And I can see how fast she's driving. It even gives you like alerts if there's a car accident. It's the best thing ever. So
Oh, wow.
for a long time, I just stared at it and watched her get from home to school or home to work or whatever. Now it's been a while, so I don't stare at it as often, but
It kind of sounds like the app on the iPhone, if you have an iPhone or not, how they have that track your phone app. It's kind of like that.
yeah, it's similar to the Find My app on the iPhone. It has a few additional features, like it's live, like it tracks while she's moving. It's really good about that. So
Fantastic. Is there a charge for that?
we have the free version. There's
Okay.
certainly an updated version that has, or a pay version that has additional features, but we just use the free version.
Oh, see, look at all of your sage wisdoms going ahead of us and having older kids. Well, I guess our 17-year-olds are the same, but our 17-year-old is our oldest. So you also have a 20-something. And it sounds like you've definitely navigated a lot of the different parenting do's and don'ts with raising them.
I like to think so.
And so speaking of that, we see in your bio that you've written some children's books.
Yes, I have. And I'm very, very, very proud of them. They're one of my most favorite things I've ever done in my whole life.
So what is it that led you to writing children's books?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story, and it's kind of snuck up on me, to be honest. So I've been a Jeep guy my whole life. I've been driving
Really?
Jeep since I was 16 years old. I bought my 7th Jeep like in 2018.
Jeep, huh?
And I was getting it lifted. I was getting some new wheels and tires and lift kit.
As
kind
you
of getting
do,
it.
yeah. Yeah, go on.
And I had it at this shop, and the guy working on it had a roommate. His roommate was in the back. He came around front, and he's like, "Hey, is that your blue Jeep in the back?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my Jeep." He goes, "It's pretty cool. How would you like to go to my wedding?" And I was like, "What?" Like, just out of nowhere, the guy asked me if I want to go to his wedding. So I'm like, okay, I need a little more information. And he explained to me that he was getting married on the top of a mountain in Colorado, and only Jeeps could get to the wedding, and he could use some help getting some of the guests there.
Okay. It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, that sounds fun. Yeah, let me think about it. And sure enough, I agreed to go, and we went out and we went to the top of this mountain. We lined up 7 or 8 Jeeps, and the bride walked down the aisle. The Jeeps were the aisle. It was hilarious.
That's funny.
But after that, we went out to Moab, Utah. Moab is kind of like this mecca for Jeep drivers.
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah. A lot of high, tall, like bluffs and lots of Jeep trails. And now the Jeep trails, are they rated on a degree of like scale, like 1 being weak and whatever number is the highest or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of like ski slopes. There's some of them are reds and blues and blacks and greens and that kind of thing.
So what was the level of the wedding Jeep trail?
The wedding Jeep trail wasn't too bad. It was probably somewhere in the middle, 5 or 6, right? But when we got to Moab, they took me on a trail called Hell's Revenge.
Oh, wow.
That sounds scary.
Lovely. Walk in the park.
And the entrance to Hell's Revenge is like this big piece of stone, if you will, jutting up out of the desert. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're listening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I tell people it's kind of like if you were to imagine a Hot Wheel driving up the back of a dinosaur. right?
Oh, wow.
Which stunt? Are you talking about the Stegosaurus with all the crazy spikes?
Yeah. It's like 70-foot drop on the left. It's like a 70-foot drop on the right. It's about a 12-foot wide rock, and it's all bumpy, so your Jeep is tilting left and right. And I had this crazy panic attack. Like I flipped out.
Yeah, I would too.
And most people, when they look at this, they're like, are you crazy? Who would drive on this, right? Like, you're looking around going, is this allowed? Like, people drive on this? But there are literally, you can see the tracks from all the Jeeps that have been over this huge stone. And so I started to freak out. Now, I'm not afraid of heights per se, but I am afraid of shelf roads, of being in a vehicle on a steep incline, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can hear the tension in my voice. Just thinking about it is, I started to like shake and hyperventilate, and I had pins and needles in my face. And so I put the car in park because, of course, I'm like, I'm going to pass out. I'm going to drive right off this thing. And it may be the scariest thing I'd ever done in my whole life, right?
How close to an edge were you at that point? Was it like you really could die, or was it just you thought you were in danger?
No, I mean, if I had veered 3 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right, I could have driven off and crashed and died. Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. Real and present danger.
That's a great question. Most people don't ask me how really in danger I was. I'm glad you asked.
You probably rolled over a few times at the bottom.
Yeah, you tell him, let's just paint this horrific picture of what could have actually been your fate.
And the Jeep could have landed on its feet too, and you could have survived. I've seen movies.
Well, when your buddies say, unbuckle your seatbelt on this part of the trail, because if the Jeep goes off, you want to be thrown from the vehicle. Ooh. That's the kind of,
so you unbuckle so you can get out quickly? Is that what it is? If you start rolling over?
So that you'll get thrown from the vehicle. Because if you drop 70, 80, 100, and sometimes some of these places have been a 1,000-foot drop, you won't make that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you're saying if you're strapped in and you roll down to the bottom, you're dead. But if you fly out of the vehicle while it's flying through air, you'll live?
Higher likelihood because you're not going to be tumbling that far. See, if you think about it like this way, Chris, physics. If you're rolling in a vehicle and you get tossed out on the first roll, then you're off to the side while it's tumbling, 10 or 70 more times.
Okay, but I've seen this one Fast and Furious movie where Dom
wasn't a
jumped.
Jeep.
No, it wasn't some car that was lifted. He jumped over to this cliff and he was tumbling like 80 times. He just walks out like no big deal.
I know, but did his stunt double survive is the question.
I can't believe you're using a Fast and the Furious reference.
In a Jeep discussion.
Well, it's the only thing I can think of when it relates to this scenario here. But I'm sorry, David. Go continue.
Okay, so you unbuckled.
Let me bring it back to where the whole. You asked how I wrote a book, and I'm telling you this whole Jeep story, right?
I love it.
Well, here's kind of where the magic happened. My friends, and I didn't even know these people that well, right? So I'm a little embarrassed. But they got out of the guy in the Jeep in front of me got out of his truck and he came back. The guys behind me got out of their Jeeps and they walked up to me. So they're literally standing right next to me. And they're like, you got this. It's fine. Just follow where he's going. Just put your tire tracks where his went. You won't go anywhere. You got this. And they walked me through this process, right? And they helped me get past this obstacle. And once I got past it, I mean, I don't know that I've ever felt more alive, right? When you face death, you're like, and if there's Jeep people who've been on this trail, they're like, gosh, what a wuss this guy is, right? But the reality is I was absolutely terrified out of my mind. Now, I've been back to that and I've gone over it and I was like, this wasn't so bad. But that's because over time I've learned to overcome those fears. But the point is, they were patient with me. They were kind. And when I got home and I would tell people this story, some people would say, that sounds a little bit like The Little Engine That Could, right? Mm-hmm. And people are like, you have to tell that story. And I was like, maybe I'll tell it as a children's book. Aww. So I turned myself into a little blue truck that gets on this obstacle with his new friends, and he has a panic attack, and they help him overcome it. And he goes on to go on this big adventure and overcomes his fears. And then at the end of the story, spoiler, he helps a new character with the same fear.
Look at that.
I love
Full circle.
that story. Now, my question for you is, when you had to go over that big rock ledge thingy, did you have to cross back over it to get to the beginning of the trail, or was it more of a loop where you didn't have to face it again on the way out?
You have to come back, but you drive on a little different part of it. So on the way back down, it's against a wall, and then there's a big drop on one side, but there's a wall on the other. So if you just hug the wall, it's not as scary.
Well, it seems scary. I've seen some videos. I don't know if you've seen those ones where this, I don't know what country it's in, but they have this crazy road that's like next to a cliff, and it's like really narrow, like driveway width of a road, and like the cliff is like, 1,000
right
feet.
there.
Yeah, and then big the mountainside. You seen those videos?
Yeah, and those are some of the kinds of places that we've gone since then.
That's crazy. Now, we have gone to the what's it called, Chris? The car show, the car exhibition that they have here in San Diego.
Oh, the international car. It's the international car show.
Yes,
or international call, whatever it is.
And so here in San Diego, each year there's this big car show, and one of our favorite things is the Jeep terrain track that they have. It's like kind of a man-made, but it simulates like going kind of like sideways and on some rocks and things like that. But when you're waiting in line, you get to watch the videos that they have of different Jeeps like going out and doing these different trails and ridges, and to see these, it's almost like a Jeep reminds me almost of like a critter of some kind. Like it just crawls up these little surfaces, and I just don't know how, when it's like straight up and down, it doesn't slide backwards. They're just very
sometimes
interesting
they
vehicles.
do. I've seen them do that too. They go over something really crazy.
Yeah, but it's very interesting how they can be so stable.
I mean, Jeep knows how to make a vehicle that's, made for off-road.
So, David, I got to ask you a very, very important question. This is probably the most important question you're going to get all day today. You ready for this? Now, you being a Jeep guy and everything, what is your honest opinion of the new Ford Bronco?
I think they're cool.
Really?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you totally just surprised him with that, because he totally, and we over lunch we were talking, and what did you say that you thought he was going to say, Chris?
Oh, that's just the Ford Bronco is just a Jeep with a Ford badge on it. That's all it is.
I mean, let's be honest. They took a lot of cues from Jeep to make the new Ford Bronco, which is probably why I think it's cool. And they did some things with like a 360-degree camera and a couple of other things that Jeep hasn't done. And so I like that they're forcing Jeep to like step up, right? I don't think that maybe it's as capable of an off-road vehicle as the Jeep, just based on the experiences I've had with my friends who have owned them. Mm-hmm. But I say more off-roaders, the better. I'm a fan of Toyota 4Runners and Ford Broncos and Jeeps. Like, let's all go out on the trail and have a blast.
Now, do you think that my Ford Explorer would hold up on a trail behind your Jeep? Or do you think it's too much of a mom car? Because I'm thinking we should test her out.
It's a 2021 Ford Explorer.
So I have a lot of friends with like stock Jeeps that are like, can we go with you? And I'm like, well, I have a winch, so we can get you, past some of the obstacles, but I can't promise we can do it without any damage.
Okay, what about I own a Ford F-150 Roush four-wheel drive. What about that?
I mean, that'll go some places. Absolutely. Yeah. Is it lifted?
Yes. Well, it's the Roush lift from the Roush company.
I have to use a big step to get up there.
Oh, yeah.
But still, Chris, I just don't think it would be as nimble as a Jeep, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're too big. I think some of those Jeep trails are smaller and narrow. I mean, we're talking about F-150. It's like this. If you look at my truck and you look at a Raptor, they look very similar. Like,
and that's one of the issues with some of the Broncos is that the trails are, they're not big enough for a Bronco. Bronco is bigger than a Jeep.
It is? I thought they were the same size.
It's a little wider, yeah.
Especially that Raptor one. You seen the Raptor Bronco?
Mm-hmm. That's a cool Raptor. I mean, that's a cool truck. I wouldn't kick that out of my driveway.
I was just telling Christine. I said, hey, I put my order in for one last week.
Nice try.
Oh, well, then you'll get it in 2025.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a flying shit by then, but
so it'll literally be like a Raptor with wings.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like I have my four-wheel drive, and I rarely we've only took it off road like one time, like put it in four-wheel drive once. It was four-wheel drive low because it was like in a muddy area, but that's about the most extent of my four-wheel driving I've gone with the thing since I've owned it.
So, David, you were mentioning your children's book and the way that you came up with the stories. So, have you fully published that initial children's book?
Yeah, actually, I'm on my third one. Which just came out a few weeks ago. So the first one is called DJ's Off-Road Adventures. DJ Faces His Fears, and it's basically the story that I just told you about the little Jeep. Who technically it's not a Jeep because Jeep's a trademark, but it's inspired by a Jeep, right? And then after getting to know these guys and going on other adventures with them, the real events that take place on the trail inspire the additional books. So the next book is called Better Together, and it's all about teamwork. It's about helping people on the trail who are broken down or who get stuck. One of my buddies, Tim, drove into this hole and almost flipped his Jeep on its side, right? And so we're climbing on the Jeep and pulling it off and like working as a team to get the Jeep back on all four tires. So I put that in the story. And so the second book is just about teamwork. And then the third book, which I may be more proud of this third book than any of the others, it's called Girls Rock. Ooh. And it's all about how females in the sport of off-roading are minimized. How they're like, you can't do this because you're a girl. It's about a pink Jeep. A pink truck, because Jeep is copyright. These aren't Jeeps.
Well, we get the idea, though.
Yeah.
But my wife and my daughter both drive pink Jeeps, so that helped inspire that character.
That's so cute.
And then she goes out and she gets picked on by some really mean girls. One of the mean characters is a Porsche named Karen.
It makes sense.
That's
yeah, I get
funny.
it.
And they're like, you can't go off road. You're a pavement princess, blah, blah, blah. And she goes out into the woods and just tears it up. And so it's all about how girls can do anything boys can do. And I'm really proud of that one.
I love that. Now, you mentioned the trail and off-roading and having a background with literature. I know that sometimes things are symbolic, like they stand for different things. So when you're talking about being on the trail or off-roading, are you really talking about the trail and off-roading, or does it represent something different?
Well, I think that question comes after saying, girls can do anything they want. And certainly the story is all about how girls can go off-road, and that's literal. But it's also figurative about how girls shouldn't be minimized in any situation and that they can do whatever a boy can do, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I love that you're using this concept of off-roading because it reminds people or reminds children that it's okay to not take the path that's always the most traveled by everybody else or the thing that's the safest, and kind of navigating what risk looks like, but through the story of cars. And kids love to talk about cars, and they love, little Hot Wheels and things like that. I think it's a great analogy.
And they say right what you know, right? And
exactly.
And I know Jeeps, and I know going off-road, and I know these trails. So that's my experience, and that's, of course, what I had to write about.
David, is your Jeep, is it the four-door or the two-door version?
Well, I have a four-door Jeep. That's the one that the story was made after. Okay, but I also have an old 76 Jeep in the garage with two doors. Well, no doors technically, but... Wow,
check that. Now, have you done any major upgrades? Like, have you swapped it out for a V8 or anything like that?
It's a restored 76, so it's like pristine. It's okay. It is a pavement princess.
Oh, look at that! I know that. I know here in California we've got very strict EPA rules and things like that, like carbon emissions and all that stuff. Do you guys have some of the same rules out there in Kansas?
No, we sure don't.
So you guys can pretty much do whatever you want to the engine, and nobody says nothing.
I mean, it's an antique, and I think antiques have different rules, probably even in California, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it's anything 70-something is the rule. Anything that had, like, anything on a certain date or older, you don't have to get smog checked. But if it's like a newer vehicle, I know some of these newer vehicles, people like to put chips in them, or they like to get upgrade the intake, supercharge, you name it, so on and so forth. Some of their vehicles, I know that at least out here, you can't get smog checked or pass smog, and the cops are all over you. That's a big pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, for your California listeners, let me just interject that my wife's pink Jeep is a hybrid. So if that helps at all.
How's that? Is that a new thing? Is that something new they did?
Yeah, they came out in 2020, I think, or 2021. 21, I think.
Now, being a hybrid is as powerful. Does it have enough torque to really climb over some of the mountains and stuff?
It actually does. We just took it to Moab a few weeks ago, and it did amazing on the trails.
No way. Check that out.
And
That's so
it
cool.
was quiet. That's the really cool part, is going up to the top of a mountain without an engine running. Oh, it's
That's
awesome.
pretty crazy. Now, if it's a hybrid, is it okay? I'm gonna sound really dumb right here. Does that mean that you have to plug it in? Like, is it partly hybrid electric or?
Yeah, we
Okay.
plug it in every night.
Here I was gonna ask a question sounding really dumb. Like, I see the leaves on the hybrid cars, like, they normally have like the little emblem with like a green leaf. And I was thinking, is it hybrid plug-in the only way, or could you like put leaves in it to power it?
Leaves to
Obviously not.
power
I
it.
know sometimes I'm a dingbat, but coming back to your children's books, David, and mentioning that panic attack that you had, has writing these children's books helped you manage your own anxiety, or do you still get panic attacks and overcome by anxiety?
Well, this is a great question. When I got back from that first trip, I actually thought, I don't want these fears to prevent me from doing this activity, because I absolutely love the mountains. I actually love going out with my friends, and I don't want to be the weakest link. I would hold them up because I was the slowest driver on the scary parts, right? And so I decided to see a therapist. And the therapist said, listen, really the only thing you can do here is exposure therapy. And I said, we live in Kansas. There's no exposure therapy to shelf roads in Kansas. Mm-hmm. So he said, just little by little, you're going to have to figure this out. And I did learn a very valuable trick for overcoming anxiety. And I want to share this with you. I think your listeners will like this. I don't know that she originally came up with it, but I learned it from Mel Robbins.
Okay.
She's a
I love her.
self-improvement author.
Uh-huh.
She said that anxiety and excitement create the exact same physical responses in your body. And if you can tell your body that what you are experiencing isn't actually anxiety, but rather that it's excitement, then you can almost trick yourself into getting past the fear and embracing the shaking of your hands and the shaking of your hands, the hyperventilating, the increased heart rate. You tell yourself, this is excitement. This isn't fear. This is excitement. And so I have used that trick hundreds of times on my subsequent Jeep adventures. And I tell the kids that when I do assemblies. The assemblies are about the book, but they're also about overcoming fear. I want the kids to know that if they are brave enough to face something that scares them, that the result will be a really, really profound memory and a sense of accomplishment. And you just feel so alive when you do something scary. And so I try to encourage them to do things that scare them.
Absolutely. I love that analogy, that scenario, because I'm thinking about when I experience anxiety and that feeling of nervousness, and it almost does feel like excitement, but with fear kind of clouding it. And so, like, if you can teach your mind how to compartmentalize that fear and just take a deep breath and leap, then you're on the other side of that fear pretty quickly. And it just seems, I'd never even thought of it like that, about that very similar feeling. What do you think, Kris, about the connection between like anxiety and excitement?
I think you get excited. I think everybody gets a little excited and anxiety. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. Like it's more excitement, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about, because we talk about anxiety in our relationship and things that we encounter that make us anxious. Do you think it would be easy to kind of flip that switch from anxiety to excitement?
I think, yeah. But there's always a fear that always goes involved with anxiety. I think it goes hand in hand. And you are afraid of what may happen or may not happen, or things may not go the way you anticipate. So the excitement of something going a certain way just gets ruined because it went the wrong way, and now you're stressed out.
So in your books, David, do you speak to that type of energy of that worry and that fear for children and how they can overcome it?
Yeah, it was really kind of hard to translate that into something that elementary school kids could read and comprehend. But there is a moment where DJ says, I'm really excited, or I'm gonna. I haven't read the book myself in several weeks, right? But he says something like, I'm going to turn this this fear into excitement, and I'm not going to let fear keep me from accomplishing my goals.
I like that. I like that statement. I'm not going to allow fear to keep me from accomplishing my goals. I think I need to write that down somewhere. While you might have written that for elementary age kids, I think that speaks to me very specifically, because there's so many times where I'll procrastinate on something or put it off a little bit because I'm afraid of what's going to be the outcome of it. But I think
that's everybody's fear, really. That's what keeps a lot of people grounded from not doing things like your Jeep trail you went on. Like if you were so afraid of going over a hill like that or going off road, then you may not even get behind the wheel. You might even turn the ignition on, like ever, really, kept you grounded. And a lot of people do find themselves in that situation where they'll never know if they never know, never try it,
It's like that failure to launch phenomenon.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So with now having 3 children's books under your belt, David, how do you go about promoting them, and what have you done since you've published them to help get the word out?
So it's definitely a challenge as an indie author to get the word out about your books. There's a lot of scams on the internet. Hey, sign up for this contest and you could win and be promoted. I've done all those things. And
okay, how'd they go?
Not so great. Not so
scams,
great.
Huh? Is it?
I spent a lot of money that first year submitting my book to book contests and not getting really anything out of it.
Oh no!
Have you ever tried going to like a public library?
Yeah, you hand them the book and they say thank you, and that's about it.
You don't do like didn't they do like a story time reading? I remember the libraries around here, they have the kids gather around, the librarian would do like a story time.
Yeah, but then the kids just check out the book and it's like they keep 2 or 3 copies. The better things like the bookstores and things, but that takes a lot of man hours.
Concept. You can still do the same thing there. Are bookstores still around? I don't even know. Are they?
Yes, they are. Okay. Barnes and Noble.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hanging on by a thread.
Part of my problem was that I launched these books in like February of 2020.
Oh.
So the pandemic hit and I was like, and my wife's an elementary school teacher, so I had some ins at elementary schools, and those have just now kind of started to hit. I did several assemblies last spring and last fall, and those are a blast, and those are a good way to get the word out. But I don't really do it to make money. I have a great job. I have a great career. This is a passion project for me.
Okay, good.
Would I like to sell more books? Absolutely, because it's expensive to hire the artist and go through that process of publishing.
You don't draw these yourself?
No, I unfortunately did not inherit that brilliant skill from
So who
anywhere.
was doing your artwork and how did you find them?
It's a brilliant artist by the name of Floyd Leroy. And I found Floyd on a website called Upwork, which is a website where contractors go and pimp out their skills,
Yeah.
And
so it's like freelance stuff, right?
Yeah, totally freelance. And he's been amazing. He's the perfect artist because I have a vision in my head and I'm incredibly picky about what I want. Sometimes I'll send him a photograph that we took while we were on the trail, or I'll send him a video of a dash cam video of it happening. There's actually dash cam footage of my panic attack.
Oh, wow.
No way.
On my YouTube channel.
Is it like a GoPro that you used?
Yeah, it was a dash cam just sitting on my dash and recording the event. But anyway, sometimes I'll place Hot Wheels out on like bed sheets and positions, and I'll take a picture of it with my phone, and I'll send him that, and he'll turn that into the art. He's amazing, but he's actually made a little bit of money on my books.
He has? Has that trickled down to you?
We're not there yet.
Oh man!
It was the other way. It's out of his pocket.
So the characters, the main characters you created for the book. Well, he created. Well, you designed, but he actually drew. How many sketches had to go back and forth between the two of you guys before you locked in a real this is the one?
60.
Oh wow!
Wow.
and sometimes on a single page, we'll go back and forth 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Is it just like getting the lines right and the expressions and just so you can capture the personality?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so Desi is supposed to be really, really angry in this scene. Can you make the car look angry? How do you do that, right?
Well, Cars did it with Disney, Pixar.
Oh, right.
That's true, but they're very 3D. They're very detailed, right? My pictures are great, and the kids love them. And my artist finds a way with eyebrows and eyes and a little bit of mouth on the bumper, so it's similar in that regard. But I'm just picky. Like I'm like, okay, that water is not transparent enough, and I need to see more tire, or I need more mud on this part. And like I'm just picky, you know.
You're
but he's
selective,
amazing.
and you have a very clear picture of what you want. I wouldn't say that you're picky.
That's a good thing.
No,
actually.
I'm definitely picky.
I think it's good. I think it's a good thing to be picky because, you know, it's your baby. You know, you don't want to settle for, you know, subpar stuff.
Yeah. And some of my social media posts are, here's what I sent Floyd, and here's the process of Floyd turning it into the final page. And people seem to like that behind the scenes kind of examples of the book coming to life on my social media. So that's always fun.
Hey, where is Floyd located?
Floyd is in Maryland.
Okay.
So he's not like down the street. Like, hey, Floyd, I'm bringing these papers over to you. Or back and forth kind of thing, like your neighbor.
Yeah.
Floyd and I have been working together for 3 years. We have had one phone conversation.
Oh, wow.
It's all email and text, I guess?
Everything is through email.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting that you were talking about the social media behind the scenes, including a bit about the process, because when I visited with my son Disneyland several years ago, there was this huge line to get into the Animation Academy where people wanted to learn how to draw a character. And so I think that there's this natural tendency for people to be drawn towards like seeing what that creative process is. And that has to be so fun to see their reactions and to see, you know, where you started to where you're at now that the books are published.
Honestly, it's my favorite part of the assemblies. So I start by reading them the book, and that usually goes over pretty good. They're like clapping, yay, DJ, they love it. And then I'm like, would you like to see a video of some of my real Jeep adventures? And I show them this video, and the oohs and the ahs and the screams. There's this one scene at the very end of the book where DJ makes it to the top of the mountain. It's a place called Top of the World, and it's literally a rock on a cliff, and the car is like pulled up to the edge and looking out over this beautiful vista, right? And I show them that picture, and then I show them the real photograph of the real vehicle at Top of the World, and they just lose their minds. It's the greatest.
That's fantastic.
You must feel like an absolute hero when you go into these assemblies where you're like, all the kids are cheering for you and you're like, I'm a superhero.
Well, the minute I start to feel a little cocky about it, and one of the kids goes, did you drive your Jeep to the ledge? And I'm like, no, I had to have a friend do it.
Oh, you just said he did it blindfolded.
Kids will know when you're lying. They can read you really well.
I don't know. I blind my kids all the time.
So, David, what's next on your agenda as it relates to your books? Is there a new book in development? Are you going on a book tour? Let us know and let our listeners know.
I got a couple books in mind, and maybe your listeners can tell me which one they think would be more fun. But I kind of want to do one where DJ is out on Christmas Eve helping, cars out of ditches, because there's a big snowstorm, and he runs across a big truck. And this truck happens to be Santa, and Santa can't deliver the toys because he's stuck in a ditch. So DJ calls all his friends to help Santa, and so the story kind of goes, right? I don't want to give it all away. Mm-hmm. So that's one idea. The other idea is to find an old Jeep in a barn. Sorry, an old vehicle in a barn, because Jeep's copyrighted, and then kind of nurse it back to health, right? So we've donated a lot of these books. I did several fundraisers to donate books to children's hospitals. And facing fear is certainly a concept that those kids face, but I'm wondering if there's a world where I help them visualize a character getting well, taking this old vehicle to the hospital.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And nursing it back to health.
Or maybe one that like broke down or something, Yeah,
something along those lines, even one that's been in an accident or whatever, right? But seeing how it can be repaired and come back and live a valuable full life, right? So those are the two concepts I'm kicking around in my head.
What about the one that like the Jeep, quote unquote, the vehicle, the vehicle?
See, I got you doing it now.
Yeah, the vehicle, like on no fault of their own, get some kind of like accident or they break, something happens to them. It's not their fault, but it happened to them, and they're in critical condition. Their friends have to help them, nurse them back to their health. The mechanic or quote unquote car doctor
Yep.
come in, and they were in the mechanic shop, which would be kind of like a hospital, but not really, kind of playing on both sides of it, to get the illusion. And that they kind of nurse the vehicle back to health, and the friends come by and help the vehicle out and donate even parts. Like, hey, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here,
You know what I think would be a great one, Chris? So we are welcome to allow you to use this idea if you would like to.
A patent pending.
So
Just kidding.
Chris has a Nissan 370Z, his sports car, and we've been having some little difficulties with it because it's been sick and tired lately. So you could use a similar vehicle to the Nissan Z that's stranded on the side of the road, a helpless little friend that gets stranded, and your vehicles come along and help it. My other idea would be that you incorporate animals, because it sounds like you only have cars. So what if there was like a stranded animal on the beach, and then it would be DJ's Great Sea Rescue. He's like a big giant turtle that's like stranded on the beach and figures out how to like get a net and help get the turtle back into the water. I think that would be a great one too.
That sounds fun too.
Yeah. So here you go. We just filled you up with all kinds of ideas.
I mean, think about the concept of helping and anxiety and the worry and stress and the friends coming together. You could pretty much use it for almost anything. I mean, the sky's the limit, really, with that kind of stuff. So good on you. I really like your product. I do like your stories about the vehicles, quote unquote Jeeps.
And so where can our listeners find your books if they would like to purchase them for their children, grandchildren, and neighbors?
Probably the easiest, fastest way for them to get the book is to just order them from Amazon. It's all under DJ's Off-Road Adventures. Again, my name is David McBee as the author. But I do have a website, djsoffroadadventures.com, for the crazy few people who want an autographed copy. I can do that. I don't get it, but okay.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And DJ's Off-Road Adventure is on Facebook, which is kind of fun. That's where I show reading to the kids, and I show pictures of the kids with the books and things like that. It's also on Instagram, and I'm recently kind of figuring out if I need to have a place on TikTok or not. It's there now.
Well, if you have your Jeep stuff, I mean, your little Jeep, if you have little snippets of Jeep trail and kind of stuff, maybe you can put on Instagram, on TikTok, if you have that kind of stuff. I've actually gotten some pretty good views on TikTok, but it's mostly people who just want to see Jeep stuff or want to make fun of. There's a lot of people who want to make fun of me.
Yeah.
Make fun of you? No, for what?
Okay, so this is kind of a fun story.
Okay.
One of the first videos I posted on TikTok was a Jeep hack for getting the doors off. So when you lift the door off of a Jeep, sometimes it can be a little awkward, a little bit heavy. And so I use a padded drywall carrier to kind of give myself some stability, right? And so I just did this video, TikTok pro tip for getting the doors off Jeep, use a padded drywall carrier. It got almost 4 million views.
No way.
That's crazy.
Yes, you should go look at it because the comments are hilarious. They're like, 5 foot dad joke or 5 foot dad activities. And I'm like, yeah, my mom smoked when she was pregnant with me. What am I going to do? I don't know, just like use your hands. Or some people are really mean. They're like, hey, why don't you have your boyfriend help you? to which I replied, he's at Old Navy buying more cargo shorts. So.
Chris is cracking up because he's sitting here wearing cargo shorts.
Hey, now.
I know. I was like, what's wrong with cargo shorts? People are picking on me for my cargo shorts. So I embraced the mean comments and just had some fun with it. And so, like I said, on TikTok, it's mostly just it's just ornery people. I'm not selling any books on TikTok, I don't think, but it's fine.
No, I don't think. I think it's like all of these different things. They kind of drive towards your main hub, which would be your website. So every little thing here, figure a way to drive it to that.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. Well, David, we've really enjoyed having you on the show today. Any last words that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I mean, I know that a lot of your listeners are interested in, family, right? And raising kids and relationships. And so I guess my thing is, challenge yourself, challenge your kids to do things that scare them, because it's when we do the scary things that we feel the most alive.
Ooh, I love that. And listeners, thank you so much for sticking with us. We're going to leave all of the information on where you can find David's website as well as his books in the show notes. David, thank you so much for being here with us today. If we're ever in Kansas City, we're going to look you up and we're going to grab some barbecue together.
That's right.
That sounds great.
And
Thank
some
you.
off-roading too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
If you love music and podcasting, now you can have both. Introducing the brand new K2 radio station, available 24/7 on the Live 365 app for free.
Specializing in rock and alternative music, we're talking bands like Coldplay, Nirvana, Muse, Imagine Dragons, and yes, even the Rolling Stones. They have all stopped by to drop off songs, and we even have brand new popular tracks added every single day.
Also on the free K2 radio station, we are including podcasting. Get the best of both worlds. Download the free Live 365 app or listen online at live365.com and type in K2 Radio.
You know, having David on the show is fantastic. I love talking shop, and I love talking Jeeps and
I
cars
know.
and trucks and things like that.
You love talking about any vehicles. What was it the other morning you woke up and you're like, babe, I saw this thing. Like last night I was at work and it was like a photo of the new Bronco and I was looking at it and I'm like, first thing in the morning, what I think of is coffee. I need cream for my coffee.
Well, that too, of course.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
obviously,
lately,
yeah.
but you've been waking up and you're like, you know what? Or you'll text me in the middle of the evening right before I go to bed because you're at work and you're like, you know, I saw a commercial for the new Z and da-da-da-da.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
Or I just saw this Raptor truck and I saw this, you know, Dodge that, and I was wondering, you know, could my truck beat it? You love talking about cars. So I'm
I
sure
think
you
it's-
enjoyed this interview.
I did. I think this is just a kid in me, you know. Every kid loves playing with cars and trucks and things like that and all that fun stuff. You know, Ezekiel, speaking of which, isn't he like taking his driver's license test or something?
Yes, he had his first 2 lessons and he got to start driving on the freeway.
No way.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So he had his first lesson last week early last week, I think it was, when I was up there. And was it just last week? Anyways, it's like over a week ago. Because that was the reason that I went up there. I went up for the bridal shower, but I also went up to spend time with Ezekiel, and I was able to have a lot of really good time with him, and I was so happy about that. But I got to let him drive me around at night.
No way.
Did I tell you this?
No, you didn't tell me this at all.
I didn't tell you? Oh, he was so excited because it was nighttime. He drove me and my parents.
Which car?
The Explorer.
Your car?
He drove me and my parents from their house over to Sonic, which is across town, at night. And he was such a good driver.
Really? Was he
Yeah.
overcautious? Like looking?
He was very cautious and he was trying to be very aware of what was happening. Like he got in, he got his mirrors all straightened up. He got his seat into the right section, like the right way that he wanted it.
Got his music all adjusted right.
No, I did no music because it was his first time driving at night, and
yeah,
I
of
wanted
course.
to make sure that he was
Of
super
course.
focused.
Like
but
you're not supposed to use any music at all to get your license. Really,
Right.
even then, you really shouldn't.
right, yeah, you're supposed to just be attentive to everything that's happening around. And so I said no music, but he did a great job. And then this week he learned how to drive on the freeway with his driver's training instructor.
Wow. So the freeway's up in Clovis area.
It's Fresno.
Fresno
Yeah.
area, probably the more wide open, not as a lot of traffic, probably, right?
There's a decent amount, but I don't really know. But the point being is that, I mean, of course, it's different from LA traffic, but they definitely do drive fast on the freeway up there, which I think can be a bit nerve-wracking for a new driver. But he told me that his driver's training instructor really helped him to navigate that. And, you know, he was a little anxious and nervous, but it's just like our guest was talking about this week, is like pushing through that fear and conquering it. And so by Ezekiel, like having that little bit of nervousness and then pushing through it and having somebody to encourage him through it, now he's driving on the freeway.
Well, check that out.
I know. And can you believe that he's going to start his senior year next week?
No way.
Yeah, I can't even believe it. My baby is almost graduated from high school.
Well, check that out. What are you going to do when he does graduate? My goodness.
I'm going to cry.
Really?
I can't believe. I mean, okay, here's the deal. I look back at pictures of Ezekiel, and I know you do this too, but I get super emotional because ever since he was born, like, I've just been so in love with him. I don't know if
Well,
that
you're
sounds...
supposed to be. That's kind of the way it
but
works
he's
for your
just like-
parent.
But as a baby, he was just like the sweetest little pumpkin, and he was always so happy. And sometimes people have babies that just seem kind of grumpy or like difficult to calm. He was always so happy and just happy to be with me and my little buddy. And when he was growing up, he just loved to run errands with me and go places, and I loved to travel with him. And I think part of me is very nervous that once he graduates that he's going to, of course, become an adult over the next few years and like start wanting to be independent. But I just feel like maybe he's not going to need me anymore. And that just makes me sad because I love him so much.
Oh, look at you, Mama Bear.
I know. He's just such a good kid. And I'm so proud of him, and, driving and all these new things that he's doing. I don't know how to say it, just that I'm proud of him.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for putting this interview together for us today, Kris. And speaking of interviews, I know that you've been doing some fun stuff over on Patreon, right?
Yes. If you are one of our lucky patrons over there on Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/The Kris and Kristine Show. Don't worry, there's a link to it onto our website. But if you go on over there, you will get access to the guest interview. Check this out. In advance, VIP access, early access to the guest interview.
Now, it doesn't have all of our banter though, right?
No, exclusively only just the guest interview. We'll have that on the Patreon feed early. So if you want to just have straight to the guest, whatever guest we have on this week, you can get access to that, and you can listen to it as much as you want. All your heart's content. Go play it along much as you want early before the episode comes out.
That's awesome. So, we know that you all love our banter, but if you want to like cut to the chase, or maybe there's something that really piqued your curiosity, then you can hop on over to Patreon and you can give a little sponsorship, subscription, whatever you want to call it, fund the fun over here at the K2 Studios, right?
We would
Kris?
really appreciate that so much because
it'll help Kris retire from his work.
It will. That's the goal of life itself. How about us retire?
That's young. Everybody over here chip in $5 and 5,000 of you will keep Kris from having to work.
There you go. That's the goal. That's everyone's goal, right? In mind.
Yeah. Well, it's yours for sure. But
definitely.
But we definitely appreciate you all, and we hope that you've enjoyed this episode and all of our other episodes. If you don't want to hop on over to Patreon, or if you don't know how to, then you can always find us over at our website, which is
Kris and Kristine Show.com.
Oh my gosh, that was very dramatic. You were like in a mood tonight. Well, anybody and everybody, thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll be back with you
next week.